You didn't go to the planning board, did you?
Not yet.
Hercules.
That's the one to really get, but those are usually pretty crowded.
I
Last time
listened to him after the fact. The last one was really dry. But, you know,
Hey Rick, you have a future career after public works, sir. Just see how you do tonight.
When you decide to retire, start working on those open questions.
Best part of the job. That's right.
I don't want to miss this.
I'm gonna tell Amy her job's in jeopardy. You don't need to come back. She can switch with you for a few days. How about that?
you know, election night's always fun.
Election nights, yeah, that'll be fun too. Yeah, election night. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Would you all please join me in pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will now read the open public meeting statement. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Roxbury was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. On December 28, 2023, notice was emailed and faxed to the Daily Record, the Newark Star Ledger, the Roxbury Register, published in the Daily Record. Notice shall also remain posted throughout the year on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building. So now, I will take roll. Councilman Carey.
I'm sorry.
Councilman Carey.
Yeah, here.
Councilman Crowley.
Here.
Councilman Hall.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Patillo.
Here.
Councilman Riley.
Here.
And Mayor Albright. Thank you. So now that brings us to reports of council liaison representative, council committees, and new business, old business. A, our proposed 2024 capital improvement plan. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Mayor, Council. Second meeting we have tonight, we need to pull this up. Rick, you moved these up, but are they too loud?
No, they're on. That was just so you weren't overheard by everybody
Oh.
before the meeting.
Making disparaging
Now they wanna
comments.
hear you.
Thanks, Rick, and we need that help. Second meeting we have tonight, and we're gonna go over three budgets tonight: engineering, and our two utilities, sewer and water. We did provide to council after the first budget meeting a few documents. One was, it was an email from myself dated January 23rd, and there were some follow-up responses and information we provided back to council based on some questions we had that evening. So if there are any additional questions on the information we provided, we certainly can go through those if anybody on council has any questions. And please keep in mind that we updated the capital budget from the initial budget that was provided to the council on January 26th. Everybody received the cover memo and also the budget sheets that were affected. Two of those budgets we talked about at the last meeting, one being the Parks and Recreation budget. We updated a few items. We also updated the minor capital budget. We reduced that a little bit so we could add a small utility cart into the Parks and Recreation budget. The other change that we made was in the water department, our water utility. We've been working on that, and we tweaked that budget a little bit and moved some projects around from 2024 to 2025, and we'll go over those tonight. So when we get to water, we'll certainly make sure everybody's looking at the updated budget, and then certainly answer any questions that the council may have concerning those. So I will go to engineering first, unless there's any questions on the information we provided since the last budget meeting. It's up to the council.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Okay, we can certainly go back to that too if we need to at whatever point. Okay, so the first, again, we have with us tonight Melanie Fischetti. Everybody knows Melanie is the town engineer, the director of utilities. We also have Valerie and Lenore here, and they're at every budget meeting, so we always thank them for everything they do. The first budget that I'd like to go over tonight is engineering, and all three of these budgets Melanie is in charge of, and she prepared these, and we put them together collectively, but she manages all three of these departments: engineering, sewer, and water. So again, the first budget tonight is the engineering department. This comes out of the general fund. This is general taxation, and also you'll see within Melanie's budget there are some grants we're receiving through the state and for the federal government, but it comes through the state of New Jersey for our streetscape project on Main Street down by the library. So, a few projects that we have. You've seen some of these before. Some of the numbers are a little bit different, so I'll go through some of those, and if there's any questions on them, we'll certainly answer them. The first one is stormwater management compliance, and we increased that budget this year in 2024 to $190,000. In the past, we've probably done $75,000, $100,000. We usually do less than this amount, but as I think everybody on council knows, the state updated their stormwater management regulations, and we have a new permit that we're required to adhere to. So over the next 3 to 4 years, we have a lot more work to do for stormwater, and a lot of it's changing out grates and drains and new requirements that, to be quite honest, if the state wasn't telling us to do it, we wouldn't be doing it. We don't believe there's things wrong with our grates and drains, but they are because they don't meet the permit. So we have so many years to do that work, and that's why that budget's primarily increased, just because the new requirements that the state's put on us. Melanie's very familiar with the permit requirements, and so is Rick Blood. So they've provided us a budget. You'll see that number for stormwater management compliance be increased over the next few years until we come out. Once we get in compliance and change a lot of those facilities out, we'll be okay. We should be able to take that budget line item back now, but it's going to take us a few years to do what we're required to do.
What's the year estimate?
I think we have 4 to 5 years.
4 years.
No? Yeah.
4 years. 4
So
years left, or
Yeah,
20?
well, yeah,
This is the first year.
this is our first year.
Okay, 2028.
Yeah, so that's probably the length of the permit. They give us the permits for so long, kind of like with the sewage treatment plant. They only give us a permit for so long, and then when they give us a new permit, a lot of times they write new requirements in. And this is one where this one hasn't changed in a while. This is a big one though. Affects everybody statewide, just not just Roxbury.
Okay.
So
This isn't a one-time shot. I mean, this isn't small. This is significant.
It's not a one-time shot. It's going to take us years to get this changed out. The state was very concerned about us, so they gave us a $25,000 grant. So if that makes you feel better, we got $25,000 from the state.
It's 190 every year, as Mr. Crowley just said. So
We always have.
so in other
storm-
words, this isn't to do something the same way for 5 years. This is just to complete it in totality in 5 years.
Yeah, no,
Is that what you're saying?
we always have stormwater projects. Like we always have compliance projects, and even prior to the new permit, I don't know what our budget is last year. Without looking great now, maybe 100, 75, 100. So in the past, we've had about that amount budgeted every year. We do a lot of different stormwater projects, right? We do a lot of infrastructure projects, but because of the new requirement, primarily the grates and drains that we have to change out to be in compliance, over this 4-year period, Rick's calculated how many we have to do, and he knows what they cost, and that's why you see this increase. So after 4 years, it'll go back down, but you're totally correct that for a 4-year period, we're gonna spend a lot of money to meet these new requirements of the DEP permit for stormwater. No way around it. Believe me, if we had a way around it, we wouldn't be doing it.
Deputy Mayor?
Is it one-time grant? Do we get to apply?
It's
for
one
it
time.
annually?
It's one time.
There's there will be other avenues for funding. I think there was some from, through Highlands. There's a couple of things that's more towards the watershed planning grants. There's a number of engineering related items. This particular item is primarily the structural part of it. But there will be hopefully additional funds that may be available through other, we have one from the DEP for mapping. Once we get through with the mapping, we're hoping to have additional grant opportunities for, planning, the various plans that are also associated with the stormwater permit.
And the Highlands, like you pointed out, I know has grants for certain things.
Yes.
So if we opt in, planning area, then we might have some.
Yeah, I believe the one that I'm thinking of does not matter if you're in or out. It's just a matter of getting to that point where, what the next step.
Yeah, they actually advised us of that. I'm sure they advised all their towns that are in at any point about money available.
Jim, it sounds like if we're in, there's more opportunities.
Yeah, they had, yeah.
And I just, stupid. All these grates and drains are on township property.
Oh, yeah. All
Yes.
Township road
roads.
property, nothing is on the state.
Oh, God, no.
Nothing on the state roads, but it also involves, structures that would be in easement areas, behind people's homes, going from one road to another. Or also, if it's not compliant with the current stormwater rules, we have to update it.
And if it's that's part of our system we maintain regularly.
Correct.
That's something we have as part of the subdivision plan.
Mr. Chapman?
Just for members of the public, right, we're talking about a difference between around 1.1 million over a 5-year period versus.
It's not,
This is more like 600,000 because we have money in here for a yearly budget.
correct.
No, versus, yeah, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, Jim, 1.1 versus about 400,000. So this is a $700,000 hit to the township.
It's expensive, and you know, the unfortunate part is, there's nothing wrong structurally with what we have, they just don't believe it's the best for stormwater quality, so. I understand the environmental piece, but it's expensive, you know, it's an expensive proposition for towns that have a lot of infrastructure, and we have a lot.
Mr. Chadwick?
John, the new developments that are going in and stuff, do they comply with it? We're not going back and fixing like the villages or anything like that.
I don't know about villages, Melanie would know, I don't know about villages.
So all new subdivision site plans, they will be constructed based on the current the stormwater regs that were in effect at the time that the project was developed. So in the village's case, those structures will be already stormwater compliant or compliant with the current permit. Anytime there's a private site that is repaving their driveway, we have an ordinance in effect, and this never would affect the township funding, but private sites are required to change out their inlets, the heads, the back pieces, the curb pieces, and the grates to be the new stormwater rule compliant. So anytime that they come in for that they're paving their driveways, their parking lots, they should be updating those structures.
Okay. So roads that were given to us that, you know, we have to plow or whatever, are we paying for all that new stuff, or are they paying for it?
We are, if they're the only thing we have new that really is new is villages, because the
old
newest.
stuff that's been in for
Oh,
3, 4, 5 years, whatever.
yeah, because we don't really have anything even in that vein. I think we had the sheep meadow farm. I don't even know if there's any inlets on that road.
Yeah, that one has no inlets, but
Then you're getting
if you're
into
looking at carriage lane, that may be partially up to date. Certain things may have changed over the years, but we have to look at the structures on a case by case basis. They give us certain criteria that the structures have to adhere to. It could be 20 years old, but just because of the way it was constructed, it meets the rule.
Okay, thank you.
You want to, Sean?
I'm sorry to make you repeat this.
Okay.
I thought I heard you say that a plan that was approved, at the time it was approved, it had to be holding to the stormwater management plan at that time.
Correct.
So the villages was approved 20+ years ago.
But those, in that particular instance, those are stormwater compliant grates, frames and grates. So they meet the current, there's certain parts of the rule have changed, certain parts haven't. That was one that has not changed. So the structures that are going in villages are compliant with the current rule for the stormwater frames and grates.
Yeah, keep in mind, most of our plans are older than that, even the villages mid-2000s. Mostly, you know, even the newer plans are early 2000s. Like, you know what I mean? You think about like Poets Peak, that's 2000.
I just want to make sure we're not
Yeah.
spending money on something that's not finished being developed.
No, we're good on villages. I mean, if not, we would have had them do the new ones. But and keep in mind, that's been back in front of the planning board again, which is good for their final approvals, their subdivision approvals.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on.
Okay, so more good news. We're gonna need to relocate a traffic light on Main Street. This is at the intersection of Hillside Avenue and Main Street. It's the one that gets hit a lot for people that know the area. This is part of the streetscape project, but unfortunately is not eligible for funding. And we do need to relocate it. We have a preliminary budget, our budget estimate of $75,000 to relocate the pole mast back further from the right of way so that the new streetscape sidewalks can be installed properly. So you've not seen this project in the past. And as you can see below, the two projects below are significant funding for the streetscape project, which is being funded 100% with grant money, but because this wasn't part of the design, this is just not something that can be added to the grant, to the scope of the grant. We certainly checked that.
Will this street might be higher as well as being moved? Because I know it gets hit often.
I'm not sure about height. I know we're gonna move it back. I don't know if that's enough. I know Rick spent some time on this. I'm gonna put him on a spot, but he might not know about elevation.
The height of the street traffic light is fine. It's the fact when a truck coming off of Route 10 turns right onto Main Street, the rear tires of the trailer drive off the road and hit the post, breaks the post, and the light happens to sit on the trailer. So it's not a height issue, it's proximity to the corner.
How often does that happen?
About 2 or 3 times a year.
Yep.
We get reimbursed from the
Yes.
insurance company about how much per incident?
Between $7,000 and $15,000, depending on how reusable the parts are.
I think our timing would be suited for when it gets knocked down next year.
You can try to plan that.
$15,000 right there.
But we do need the design part of it, so.
We'll design it, hope it gets knocked over, and we'll move it. How about that's a Roxbury special?
Well, just to point out, John touched on it, we're gonna be able to spend $1.75 million, all grant money to finish Main Street. So it's a small piece.
It is.
Well, it's an unwanted piece right now.
Right.
It's a small piece for moving this project, for us being able to move forward with the $1.75 million project for free.
It's all grant money. They fund everything. This piece wasn't part of it, unfortunately, when it was originally prepared. So those are the next two projects. Again, Main Street's moving along. Melanie's working on that. That continues. That's been such a slow project, but it is moving along. It's in design. There's been meetings with different designers, meeting with the railroad because they cross there in the area. So everybody's been involved in that. And again, we're moving along with that project. And as it gets closer and further along, we'll certainly keep you posted on the actual construction of the project. And that also includes that everybody recalls some bike lanes, some dedicated bike lanes we have, in addition to the streetscape, the sidewalk work, and the streetlight work. Next project in engineering is Eland Avenue. This is a local aid project. We have $215,000 committed from the state for repaving. Our project cost is $240,000, so we're committing about $35,000 in paving. In addition to the paving money we have in Rick Blood's Public Works budget. This is an additional segment of Eland Avenue. And Melanie can tell you the same, but I know it's further down. I'm not sure exactly what that is though, Melanie, you know.
Yes, from South Hillside Avenue to Alcott Way. We did this maybe a little bit over, closer to 15 or 20 years ago, and it's due at this point.
That's where it's a little narrow.
Yes.
That section is narrow.
Yeah.
Are we gonna expand that at all, get rid of any of the trees that are close to that, that's keeping it narrow?
That is not the plan.
I also noticed they've already, from Alcott going up, closer to, the park, they've already started spraying, painting the road, gas lines or something. Yeah. So I don't know, I hope they're not digging that part up.
Me too.
I saw that last week. Maybe just checking that, John, let's make sure they're not gonna dig up.
We'll check that. So the next two projects in engineering are both new projects you haven't seen in the past. The first one is drainage evaluation. We call it town-wide. We had some areas this summer that we really had some storms. We had some flooding in areas that we haven't had in the past, or maybe if we have had it, it hasn't been significant. So we'd like to do some evaluation in certain areas of town where we can actually do some engineering work through a consultant, guide them, get some recommendations on some improvements in various parts of of the township, which is really step one, and step two would be if we get some recommendations to make improvements, whether we can actually make those improvements, because depending on what the recommendation is, you know, it may be expensive for us to do, whether it's additional piping, pipe capacity. We've talked, I mean, residents realize, even though sometimes we don't always have the answer they want to hear, our drainage systems aren't designed to handle every storm that will ever occur. No town is. That's not how how things are designed. Unfortunately, we've been having more intense storms, and that just seems to become the wave of, you know, the wave of the future, at least. Not just Roxbury, that's a nationwide phenomena. But we would like to have some money in there and have our engineer do some areas and give us some recommendations on some specific areas we have. And Melanie and Rick both have areas that they get, you know, inquiries about that I'm not even aware of, that they know there's some flooding, some historic flooding that we probably could use a little bit of a plan to put together, and then look at capital down the road of whether we can actually build the infrastructure. Or maybe there is no design. They may come back and say, with what you have, we can't design anything that'll fix the problem. We'll at least know that we are where we are.
Any questions?
No, I just, you know, acting as mayor the last couple of years with all the rain that we've had, I've been copying up quite a few emails to John and Rick. It's probably more prevalent than you might know about. Just a number of complaints.
Right.
John and Rick have handled all those complaints.
Melanie gets them too. They get them. They do a great job. I get some of them, and we try to do some of them. You know, when people's yards get flooded, we don't like that either. But that's different when it's a structure, when it's their house or something. You know, even if it's a basement, you care. We care about everything. But whenever the ones that come in and it ends up being someone's house, we understand. We understand the fear people live in when they get water. So,
Mr. Cowley?
I just want to go back again to Wheeling Avenue. One of my concerns is that from Hillside to Alcott, we've got the garden and we have Kiwanis Park. And I'd love to see that there's no sidewalk at all. It's very narrow because the trees are so tight against the road. So for kids riding bikes or even walking from, say, Toby to get to Kiwanis Park, or someone coming up Hillside, it narrows from about where our garden center is till it gets to Alcott. And I'm just wondering if, I'm not sure I'm so anxious to spend $240,000 this year on that without seeing a plan of whether we could get a sidewalk or widen the road enough so that there's a shoulder for kids or someone to walk on, since we have that park. We're spending money for Kiwanis to put in pickleball and all these other things, but we're not solving the problem getting people to there. I think if you go take a look at it, we got some beautiful trees, no doubt.
right.
But they make that road so narrow that I'd much rather see if there's a feasibility plan to get something in there so we can move children back and forth from the park, from the other areas.
From you said from Kiwanis Park to what point?
Well, let's say up to Toby, because just at Alcott, the road widens and there's a sidewalk. But there's no sidewalk right from Alcott down to Kiwanis, or from the garden center coming up. And so Pilgrims, all these roads where kids want to come out of and go to the park that we're spending money on, we really haven't solved the problem to get them to the park. So all I'm asking is, unless the road is really bad, I'd rather wait a year and try to see if we can't do a plan or get a grant or something to solve that kind of problem too.
You have anything to say?
Yeah, like, it's gonna be a very expensive project, first of all, and holding it a year is not gonna be enough. This is because of the funding mechanisms that would need to be put in place. You know, there might be some grants available, but you're looking a couple years out easy before you can get to that place, before you can start applying for grants and things like that. So I don't know how important this project is, but.
And I don't either, I don't know what the condition of the road is.
And this is state funded, this project?
I don't know.
John?
I'm sorry?
Ealing Road is state funded, right?
It's state funded. So, but two things. One is, and I appreciate what Councilman Crowley's saying. Understood. We can only do a little bit of work. We don't want to lose the funding, obviously. We have usually have a few years to spend the state money. Let us spend a little time, figure that piece out, and let us figure out if there's even any feasibility of trying to make something work there, and bring that back to you, because I understand that, again, the cost might be just so significant to widen the road. The sidewalk, I mean, Rick, is this the area where we don't have drainage?
There's a little bit of drainage, but you need a lot more.
We've talked about that before, maybe why the road's sometimes not in the greatest of shape, so.
I just wanna bring that concern in.
Understood.
Because you're looking at it and
No, understood, that's a good point, because if we could do it right,
yeah.
right, then let us at least try to do a little bit of work on that and bring it back to you.
And that part of the road always falls apart the fastest.
Yes.
Limited drainage, and again, the trees, probably the tree cover impacts that.
Well, it's a bank on both sides too, so you can't walk out off the road and you have to step up to get up on people's property to get away from the car.
Right.
That's,
Rick?
I'm just saying, let's look at that while we're
Okay.
looking at the.
I think if Melanie goes back and looks through some of Mike's files from 2003 or 2004, two of the councilmen up here may remember a particular councilwoman who was here, and this was presented to widen that, take a whole bunch of trees down, put curbing and sidewalk in there.
Single resident ones.
And it was shot down. So there are plans out there from way back when where this was proposed.
Fred?
Mr. Muffalico, I believe, was the one who's been pushing the bike lanes, up and down that particular area. Is there any possibility of creating a small bike lane on one side at all, or is it just that narrow?
I think you look at it shared.
So like Main Street's actually, Main Street Streetscape project is actually a shared bike lane, road plus bike lane. If we do move forward with with the bicycle, or it would not be a designated lane on Eland Avenue, it would be a shared road type of application because of the width.
The point I'm trying to make here is if there's a little bit of room, on one side to put that in there, it may help not be exactly what Mr. Crowley's looking for, but at least it will create a little bit of an area over there for people to walk down the side to get to the.
But it's not gonna be a dedicated lane, we have to be careful, we don't wanna give someone the impression of a dedicated bike lane, and they don't have one.
John, I'm not looking to design it here, I'm just saying, as you look at that project,
Right.
if there's something to be done that helps that, or even down the road,
Right.
do something.
No, it's a good point, it's a good
Mr.
point.
Riley?
Yeah, I'm sure Rick says he has the plans, if you brought them in and showed them to you. You're not talking about adding 2 feet for a bike lane, you're talking about widening the road probably 4 feet before even putting in a bike lane. So you're probably looking at about a 6-foot expansion, in width. And that's part of where the homeowners fought back, because that's a significant amount of trees right there. It's just about all those trees along the road.
If we could get a foot or two, or if the road was offset a little bit into where it is right now, if there was a larger shoulder on one side, on the side of Kiwanis, that may be useful.
All
That's
right,
all I'm asking for.
we'll look at the plans that are there,
I
and
agree with you, by the way, it's just talking about feasibility.
so we'll look at what we have.
Let us look a little bit in our next budget meeting, which is next week, and we'll be doing a lot of operating if we finish capital. Like, we'll just go back to capital. We'll spend some time on these capital projects we need to talk about. Not a problem. We have time to do that.
Thank you.
The final engineering project, we're calling it the Kennedy Jefferson Scour Repair. This is an area up on Mooney Mountain and a little bit of an older plan of subdivision where we have some drainage problems and we need to do repair there. We're going to lose some drainage facilities. So this is one that's been on our radar for a few years, but it's finally time for us to fund it and do the project.
That's a scour.
Melanie?
Big hole. So in essence, during a few of the storm events, the water coming out of the head wall, well actually there was no head wall, it's just an open pipe. Over time, it just scoured a big hole, and it's quite deep, and it's impacting some utilities, or has the potential of impacting some utilities that are nearby.
Thank you.
One small thing.
Brad?
Is there a reason for the note here on Mountain Road on the bottom here? Is that just to show how we spent the funding last year?
What's the note? I'm apologizing, I'm looking at my
It
narrative.
says Mountain Road Improvement Previous
Mountain Road.
Is that all? That's all? It's just there to
It's
tell
just there to
council?
remind us that we
Yeah.
have previous funding for Mountain Road.
Yeah, well, when we get back
It's
to
in-
it.
Yeah, it's in the it's in 2025.
Does everybody understand?
it's a good thing. We've already partially funded, or if we ever do the project, which we will do it, we could reallocate those funds.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, appreciate it.
Anybody else good?
All right, so that's engineering. We're gonna go to sewer, the sewer department next. It should be towards the back of your budget, whether it's paper or the electronic version. Talk about some of those projects. Sewer, you've seen a lot of those projects before, but we'll certainly go through them so council can ask some questions. We've gone through this with the water and sewer committee at different times, so they're more familiar with it, I'm sure, than the majority of council. But again, looking at the sewer department, 2024, we have grinder pump replacement. That's for our landing section of town. We have money in there every year for grinder pumps. We replace those when we need to. Council's familiar with that.
Sure. Do you ever come close to that?
Yes,
We spend it every year.
Every year?
yes.
We probably have a decent number on stock too, because we need to have them in the event we end up having to get, because when we go out and do them, we do them immediately.
Right, so as soon as the budget gets adopted, we purchase 30 plus. And usually in the course of the year, we go through 30 plus grinder pumps. And that also, that does not include any of the grinder pumps that we would, there might be something minor wrong with it that they will rebuild in-house. Or they'll send it out for a less, where the rebuild isn't significant, or financially it makes sense to have it rebuilt.
Best deal in town.
It really is. The
It is.
residents should be very
I've seen
happy
it,
about
I've
this.
seen it in work and read it's a great program.
Yeah, people call. I mean, we're there. It's fixed, which is great. Next project is the Ajax mechanical repairs, 110,000. We added this line item last year because, even though we've done a lot of work at Ajax over the years and done a lot of capital improvements, there's always things at Ajax, that's the main treatment plant, that need work on them. So we budgeted that again. One thing that the committee did ask us, Tom and Sean are here tonight at the meeting, Bob's not here with us tonight. We budgeted that amount last year in 2023. We didn't spend all that money, we still have some of that money left, but we could always use it somewhere. So I think for us to have that money available for projects and for things that come up that we don't anticipate, and that's a big sewer plant, we think that's a good line item to have in there for in the event something does come up and we have to make a repair. The next project, and I'm looking down at a sheet, that doesn't look right.
What about the RBC unit that doubled in price
Yeah, but what's this?
from 1 to 2 million?
Oh, we had a
Oh, okay.
for
Oh.
replacement of manhole.
I'm missing part, you know what, it just didn't copyright on my, I apologize. It's by the larger print, it just didn't print right for these old eyes. I only have part of the description, Laura was helping me with this, so. It's actually manhole replacement on Eland Avenue, I was missing the front part of the description, 30,000. We funded that in the past, we just needed a little bit more money to make that work.
Right.
And then the next project is RBC. Everybody that's on council is familiar with the RBCs because we've been doing these for years. I think we have 20.
We have 24,
RBCs.
we've replaced, 16 so far. We were going to do 2 last year, which, it was in the capital plan, but the money was not borrowed last year.
It wasn't authorized.
Authorized,
It was in the
excuse me.
plan, but it wasn't authorized, because we would have had to borrow. So that's why there's 2 this year.
Why would we have to borrow last
So
year?
4 altogether.
Why would we have borrowed last year?
Well, just to do the project, right? So whether we did it last year, whether we did it this year, we just didn't do it. We never got to it. So that's why there's 2 this year, and there wasn't 1 last year.
You said it wasn't authorized, so
It wasn't funded last year.
Right. It was in the budget. It was just never funded.
it just wasn't in our capital,
It was in the plan.
Right.
but wasn't in our capital improvement ordinance.
Correct. We had it in the budget. We just never funded it. So in essence, we didn't do 1 last year. That's why there's 2 for this year. So there's 2 RBCs, and then you can see the out years. It's 2025, 2026. There's 2 additional ones.
Each RBC is $1 million? I thought we did 2 a year for
2
500,000
But when we first started replacing these, each two were 500,000 approximately. And then COVID hit, and then after that, two cost close to 900,000. That's how much
So
they went
we're
up.
looking at doing four.
4 this year. So no, they're not $1 million a piece, they're still hopefully holding that price, you know, about 800,000 for a pair.
So when there should at least 4 more to be replaced.
I will bid it as 4 to be replaced.
I mean, after this.
We'll have 4 more, 2 and then 2, or however you wanna do it.
And then when do we cycle again?
Long time.
A few years, right?
25 years out, 20 years out.
And some right now are 8 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
These
these
8 to 10
What's
years
their
old,
life expectancy?
30, the original ones were 30.
started doing them in 2017 when I started. We just started doing some of those as part of the big, we borrowed the money from the state. We did a bunch initially.
And the ones on the end get less used so they can last longer.
Correct.
Anybody else?
All right, so that's
Do
RBC.
you have something? Never mind. Okay, go on.
And then the last piece we have is the grit screw. I think that's a treatment plant, right?
That's correct.
So that's a $150,000 project. That's another Ajax capital improvement. We'll have cash funding for all of these projects except the RBCs, right? So we won't, but we'll poke around a little bit and see what we have for RBCs. Anything, if we can find some old cash, if we can use a little bit of our fund balance, we'll take a look at that because we have a healthy fund balance.
Yes,
in
so
sewer.
by Whitford is the utility,
So,
right?
yeah, so I think
We should not go out for anything on this.
Yeah, so let me say this, we'll certainly do as much as we can. If we think we need to borrow a little bit of money for RBC, we'll bring it back to council and you guys can at least know what we're thinking.
No, I don't think, I can make that decision now, I think. How much is our fund balance?
Are you talking capital fund balance or the utility?
Utility.
This
The
utility.
utility fund balance is, right now, after what we took out last year, it's about 4.8 million. So in order to do that, because we would still have to, since we have to balance, the revenues and the expenditures, we're probably gonna have to take away some of that money, and then we could bring in the million or the 2 million, but then we're gonna be with, like, you know, we would be with about 2 million in fund balance. What we would have to do is we'd have to anticipate it as a revenue in order to fund the RBCs.
Or just take it straight out of fund balance?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I'm not just talking about
it's-
the budget.
she
but
has
we
like
have to send it
mechanics.
to- Yeah,
Because, I mean, this account, and just for the public, this is a dedicated account just for sewer, so this is only paid for by the sewer users, not the township. So, but they could sit on a big fund balance for quite some time.
Yeah, so we're definitely looking at that and,
At the tail end of our craziness, we did that big project, we got fund, you know, the grants for it, everything like that. That was, that covered a lot of stuff, we've done a lot of.
it did. The next big project will be if we have to change the treatment system, which we don't know what'll happen with that, right? If the DEP, again, with their permit, requires us to do more and deals with, I think it's the nitrates in the river, the discharge. And we're looking at 27, 28, we might need to do something there. We talk about that at the committee. We still don't know that for certain, but there could be another project that's of decent magnitude. If there is, we'll be, I believe, going back to the state again for low interest loans, maybe some grants, something like that.
Let me just cut to the chase on it. Jim's point is that we have too much money in fund balance for this utility. If we do, we have some extra money to buy these other items, so do we or don't?
We're being cautious, but we understand what you're saying. We have looked at fund balance, we've had those discussions internally, we've had them with our auditor. I think we're gonna, and that's why I stated, we're gonna recommend using what we can, but we just wanna be careful. We don't wanna get it to the point where it's too low.
Can we get an accounting of what's coming in and out, generally speaking?
On fund balance?
Well, no, yeah, in and out, we got that low interest loan through the state. What's coming in, so what's coming in versus with users, from users, what's going out, and what our fund balance is.
Yeah, we can put that together. Yeah, we can put that together.
Do we have to do 4? Could we do 3?
No, Yeah,
You have
because,
between the two.
well, because you only have two left, there's two, and two. So we would, yes, you can, I guess, yes, you can, but the practicality is, you're opening up, the crane's gonna be there, we can pull the two out. So the last two of each train are the ones that are remaining. So if we gotta take, one of the trains out, we're just gonna finish off the train, rather than come back the following year and do the last one. It just, because
We have 8 left, right?
yes,
So,
So if we did 3, 3, and 2.
there's 4 trains, so 2, 4, 6, 8.
but what, can't you just hold the funding from one year to the following year, so you could do 2 at a time, so give fund for 3, 2? And just do 2 this year, 4 next year, because you know, the funding, and 2.
Yeah, well, whatever money is left, the way I would do this year, whether you give me $1 million, or if you give me $2 million, I'm gonna set up the bid, because you don't know until the bid actually comes in, maybe the prices will come down. We'll bid it as, give me a price for 2, and give me a price for 4, because the crane will already be there to remove the units.
Would the crane already be there to move the units again next year?
Well, but you're remobilizing.
Yeah, that mobilization cost.
So that you're adding, but the issue is when you're taking the train offline, you're gonna just do the 2. It just makes sense to do 2 rather than 1 out of that train.
So either way, to me, it sounds like councils would like to not borrow if we don't have to.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. We'll spend some time on that, we'll get you some more numbers, and, you know, we're in the same mindset, believe me. You know, sewer's in better position than water from a financial standpoint, so we're cognizant of that. We always look for old money, and we spend a lot of time looking at fund balance and what our annual operating is, and, you know, it's funny, we couldn't get a good, you know, we do our rule of thumbs, right? We talk about it in the general fund, a good rule of fund for fund balance, and we really couldn't get that for the utilities. You know, we asked around, and, you know, I have my opinions, but, you know, we couldn't get some other people to commit to a number, so we're gonna be giving you our best recommendation for what it's worth, knowing that we're a little bit conservative. Okay, anything else on sewer? All right, so taking a look at water, and please keep in mind that if you're looking at water, make sure you take a look at the revised budget that was sent out, and if you have Lenore's most recent workbook she sent, it has the updated water budget in there, because we moved a few projects, and I just want to make sure everybody's looking at the same sheets. So again, some of the projects in water you're familiar with because you see them all the time, and they're the smaller projects like purchasing fire hydrants, purchasing water meters. Those are things we do a lot, and you see those every year. I'm going to go through some of the smaller projects in the capital budget. You can certainly stop me along the way with questions. And then we have some larger projects in the capital budget that we've been talking about for years, probably in the committee more than council, but I'm sure council is aware of them. And I'll have Melanie explain those a little bit so you know what we're looking at doing in the water fund. So again, earlier I mentioned hydrants, 30,000, water meters, 30,000. We're doing that kind of thing every year, replacing things when we need to. If you go further down into the capital budget, again, looking at smaller projects, the Orban Drive booster station, there's some pump and motor work for $40,000. Well, number 5, we have some work there with the pump, etc. Replacement, $35,000 budgeted. And the final last smaller project for the water department is the Ford Road booster station, pump valve improvements at $125,000. All of those projects, if you add all those up, we will fund with cash. You'll see in the operating budget, we're going to move that over to the capital improvement fund. We can fund all those projects with cash because we normally fund the water fund with around $350,000 to $375,000 in cash for the capital improvement fund every year. That changes a little bit, but we try to fund that amount. We'll be able to fund all the small projects with cash. These larger projects, and I'm only going to briefly introduce them, and Melanie's going to talk about them some more. these are larger projects. We're gonna need to borrow some money for these. We've known that for years because again, these are larger capital projects that we need to do. And a lot of these have been designed years ago with the villages coming online, and some of the work is actually being necessitated because of villages. And villages did provide us some money over the years to help offset some of the costs of these improvements. So the first project is, and these all work together, is the water plan, the phase 1 water master plan improvement project. That cost estimate for that project is $1.8 million. Melanie will talk about that in a few minutes. Benzel tank rehab. The Benzel tank, for those of you who are familiar, it's up near Mount Arlington. That's an older water tank we have. We need to do some work there. And also the Skyview tank rehab. I believe we have 2 tanks at Skyview. Skyview is up on Mooney Mountain. Those are tanks that need rehab. For those that have been on council for some time, we did we call it the million-gallon tank in Landing. We did that, I think, in 2017. I think we did that my first year I was here. The work was completed. It was designed and thought about, obviously, for years before then. Since then, we haven't done much tank work, and we wanted to do the tank work in addition to the master plan, making some improvements to the overall water system to enhance the overall system. So I'm going to ask Melanie to explain those projects a little bit so everybody's familiar with them, and then we'll certainly be able to try to answer any questions the council might have about those. Melanie?
Okay, so I'm going to lump them all together in the phase 1 master plan improvement. So as John mentioned, the improvements are needed for villages, primarily for the villages projects. They include refurbing the 250,000 gallon tank in Benzel and demolishing the smaller tank in Benzel. Both of those are pretty much original to the water system when it used to be the Shore Hills water system, and work is definitely needed on those tanks. They will provide the fire storage for the villages project, the supply. One of the other projects is interconnecting the Skyview water system with the Benzel Drive or the Shore Hills system. Part of those improvements were constructed by villages a number of years ago. They extended the water main from Orban Drive, Landing Road, all the way up to their project, and then through their project, interconnecting into the Shore Hills High Zone, or the Benzel Drive system, in the vicinity of the Ford Road Booster Station. And that will facilitate the use of water from the Shore Hill system and Skyview system, where we're going to maximize the use of our existing wells and water from the MCMUA that we purchase in both water systems. So overall, it's necessitated by the villages, but overall for the water system, for the customers in Benzel Drive and the Skyview system, there's a definite benefit for both customers of both systems.
The Ford Road booster system, that's at the bottom of the hill, right? Where well 2 is?
That's right next to well 2, correct.
Jim?
Yeah, Wellfleet was gonna loop it, right? What is it we have to do to finish it?
So it is looped. So their system, so far constructed with villages, the portion that we've taken over is from Route 46 at Landing Road, up Landing Road, Shippingport Road, in through Village Boulevard, and it interconnects into Ford Road through an easement area. They've also constructed 2 interconnects. Wellfleet did. One at Manzel, which is currently shut down until we get these water system improvements, and then another one at Davis. It's a paper street. I'm drawing a blank. But one of the side, the opposite, one of the paper streets, and that will help feed water back and forth between the Skyview and the Shore Hills.
Yeah, I thought Wellfleet was doing everything, trying to figure out what is it we have to do.
So they did the system improvements, so that part was completed. What was not done is the storage aspect. So if you remember back many years ago, they were going to put a water storage tank on their proproperty.
I do remember that.
Vaguely, yeah. I mean, it's only going back 25 years. So,
That's all.
these water system improvements will eliminate the need for that tank. So, specifically regarding Benzel, there are a cluster of homes up there that don't have the best water pressure surrounding the tank, because the tank is right there and the house is literally right next to the tank. So these system improvements will benefit the remaining customers of our water system. So as much as they were promulgated by the villages, there's an overall benefit for our existing water customers.
Understood, I still thought that was being taken care of by Rolford, so. what's
There
the
were
cost?
contributions, like John mentioned before, there were previous contributions, but I didn't bring the total, how many hundreds of I'm thinking that it was like $957,000 over the course of
Years.
Years
They just
that
made one
have-
recently, I think $230,000 or $240,000
Yeah.
we have towards the project. That was a recent contribution that was made.
Right,
Well,
so there were,
some of them, they were paying for the water that they're gonna be using for holding that water.
they had paid an allocation fee back in 2008, 2011, somewhere in that ballpark.
And didn't they get charged, I think, on an annual basis?
No, but they paid, so when they pay an allocation fee, they pay 25% of the water connection fee associated with each lot. And then as villages are developing, they're paying the balance of those water connection fees. And sewer
We're
connection fees.
collecting this still,
Correct.
currently.
It's been a long time, so I don't remember all.
It's a lot.
Just for the source separation too, right? The one place, you know,
Correct.
The villages, are they selling as utility fund balance?
No,
They've been used?
a lot of them have been used, yeah.
Part of it was used for the design of these improvements as well. So we have, the Benzel Drive tanks, so there's a benefit there for the residents of the landing area. We have Skyview, the original tank is a $300,000 gallon tank that, needs to be refurbed, rehabbed, and returned to service. It's been offline for a number of years. We didn't move forward with some improvements on that. We tabled them for a number of years until the need arose for those improvements. And then the refurb, repainting of the Skyview tank, that's our newest tank, was constructed in 2000. But paint systems only last so many years, it's due. So that's another part of it. Another one of the improvements that's being funded through these water system improvements is to separate the Shore Hills High Zone. So there's an interconnect between the Morris County MUA at Oneida Drive. We sort of lucked out that Morris County constructed that interconnect last year or the year before, a couple of years ago, when they repainted their water storage tank. So the tank, or the vault and the interconnect is there. We have to do some modifications within that vault. And then another part of that overall design is to separate the Mount Arlington Boulevard, a segment of the existing water system, specifically along Mount Arlington Boulevard, who currently have very high pressures because they sit so low in relation to the Benzel Drive tank. So we would actually go in at select locations within the water system and either it's still under design, but in essence, segment the lower elevation so they're not experiencing excessive high pressure. So we have, the Shore Hill system has a problem. We have areas that have inadequate pressure, and then there's some that have inadequately high pressures. And we're trying to equalize everybody.
Brad?
I have two questions.
Sure.
What's, question one, what's the fund balance for this utility?
Valerie, she can give you water.
Right now, the fund balance for water is 3.3 million.
Yeah, I mean, we're not paying.
And that's
anything.
roughly, I haven't gotten back the AFS yet.
It's actually good, but we can't pay for these improvements with fund balance.
Years ago, when it was in real bad shape, it was in the red.
No, I'm not, please, I'm just trying to understand based on these large expenditures that are in it. And the second question I have is, last year, a lot of money didn't really go say, that for the next 2 years is a substantial amount of capital that you've allocated. So my next question is, are some of these items that you have, these large dollar items, can they be transferred over time to out years, or do they need to be done
The
simultaneously?
PFAS stuff,
What's that?
it's the PFAS stuff.
Two things.
That one I agree with
But-
you.
but two things.
Some of these are not PFAS.
Two things. One is the projects that we moved into this year. You see, we moved PFAS out 1 year. Well, number two, the projects for this year, the tanks, the improvements, we need to get those done. Right? We've known about those for some years. With where Villages is in the process, it's time to pull the trigger on those. We've been working on design for those. We should do those projects and get those projects done. So I would do those as a group. They make sense as a group.
Yeah, just to be clear, he pulled Skyview from now year 2 down.
Yeah, we just moved it up. We thought, you know what, we could have waited a year. It makes sense to do that all at one time. That could even be one contract for tanks.
Just to
So
push off of
we
the PFAS.
yeah,
stuff.
we moved PFAS out. You know, we're looking for state money for that. We're looking for grants. We're looking for money back from our.
Settlement
So
stuff.
we're looking for settlement money.
Settlement money.
We know that settlement's moving along. There was a case back in December of just last year, the end of December. You know, so we're hopeful that we get money in settlement money. We're hopeful that we can get some state grant money or state low interest loans. The EPA is going to be coming out with regulations nationwide. We're hopeful that maybe some EPA money will be coming if they're going to mandate this nationwide, and they pass on the EPA's mandated big projects. They've put grant money out there for construction of facilities. PFAS is going to be one that's going to be difficult for water systems, I think, to do on their own without getting some grant money. That's why we moved it. So we're functioning right now, as everybody on council knows, we've taken that well offline, where there's no issues with the water quality in our system. We eventually need to get it back online because we need to use the well. It's our best producer, I think. So we did move it out, and we're hopeful that over the course of the year we'll learn more about our settlement. We're hopeful to get a significant amount of money back. As a public water system, we're at the top of that settlement food chain. We do know that, which is good.
And we're not just talking about this well, because odds are multiple wells could be affected.
We have provided them information on, I believe, 3 wells that potentially can be impacted in town. Right now, we only have one that's in violation of New Jersey standard, but with the EPA standards coming on and with New Jersey potentially lowering them, we still have an impact. We've given them all 3 wells, just so we have them for settlement talks.
Anybody?
How many wells do we have?
I'm sorry,
How many wells do we have?
9 wells. 8 wells, 8 wells, 9 with the DPW facility well. Evergreen has no detects, and neither does the DPW facility well.
The Evergreen system's a small amount of Berkshire Valley. I think it's 30 or 33 residents.
30 residents.
30, it's a real small system that's part of ours.
I didn't even know there was water in the valley.
Just that one little
Exactly.
like subdivision area, right? That one subdivision area. And the other systems, as Melanie mentioned, we call it the Roxbury water system. There's 3 separate systems that are all separately permitted through DEP. When we're done with this big project, we'll have one large water system, right? Short Hills and Skyview combined, and then Evergreen will still be on its own because it's just isolated and separated. We'll still run and operate it, but it'll I don't think ever be part of the other system.
We're not gonna expend that kind of capital expenditure to link the
Right.
systems.
Right. So just so sometimes it's a little bit confusing just the way it's permitted through DEP, but it'll be better because it'll be down to 2 systems rather than 3 separately permitted.
Correct.
Anybody? Okay.
That's everything we have on capital for tonight. We obviously have some work to do for you guys, so we'll get that information and
Yes,
bring it back to you.
Sean?
So fund balance is 3.3.
Roughly, yeah.
How much are you anticipating going forward,
How much am I anticipating what?
to go above for tomorrow?
For water,
We're planning to borrow.
we would probably borrow a good bit of it. I think we'd borrow a good bit of the capital. I think that, we're still looking at trying to figure out what our numbers are. We have some existing water notes from older projects, 14, 15. There's a few notes that are out there. We did the Mount Arlington water line a few years ago. That's a note. We're thinking of maybe trying to we might pay one of the notes off if we can. We might pay one off like 450,000 if we can pay it off. I think we're gonna try to do that, so I think it's good to get any debt paid off that we have. I think what we're thinking about is trying to combine some of the existing notes, looking at some of these new projects, rolling it into probably a 30-year bond. These are 30-year projects, these are long projects, and taking a look at what that'll cost us. We have some money currently in the budget that we are using to pay notes. We can shift that over and take that money and pay off long-term bonds, right? We know we can shift that money, so that's money that's already in there. We can get a little bit probably out of our capital every year. We probably don't need as large of a capital fund every year if we're doing a lot of these projects, right? And then we still have smaller things to fund, trucks and smaller things. We can probably take a little bit out of there. And we'll probably be looking at a little bit of a rate increase somewhere along the way, maybe into next year, that we could utilize for capital debt to do these big capital projects. That's what we're thinking. We still need to work out the numbers.
Okay, yes, Jim?
Just for the public's sake, what we're talking about now, we haven't been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so, is just the water utility, just like the sewer utility. It's funded only by the water users, those that get water from Roxbury Water Company, not the private company.
Correct. Yeah, I think we've had our water rates haven't been increased since 2013. I think it's our last increase, which has been great. I think our water system, I'm a customer, Valerie's a customer, some people are customers, some aren't, just depends where you live. Sean's a customer, I believe, Jackie, me, and I apologize, I don't always know the borders.
That's okay.
Close to where you live, but, we wanna provide good, clean water that's safe for the people, and, from my perspective, our utilities, I think New Jersey has high taxes. I don't think Roxbury does. New Jersey does. Our utility rates are wonderful. Our water and sewer rates are really good. They're really good compared to other towns. I think we get a great deal for water. Sewer, I think Melanie's told me the last thing we did in sewer was decrease rates years ago. So again, for what we do with that sewer system and how it's run and operated, it's been done that way years before I got here. I'm not even taking credit for any of it. They've done a great job. The council's done a great job. That runs so well at a very reasonable price, very reasonable. So that's a credit to everybody here and all the employees and the engineering department. It is really, these are two, especially sewer, they're really well-run utilities. Water is too, sewer is just a little bit smaller, so it makes it a little bit tougher.
Sewer was at 150. Now it's 135. 140.
So again, when you think about it, to actually decrease, the last time it was increased might have been over 20 years ago. We've made that really work and made a lot of capital improvements. So these are well run, and they're financed properly, and we just need to make some capital improvements in water now that we haven't done in a few years. So
Just to back you up, John, I know what my water bill is, and compared to some surrounding areas, I know we're well below.
yeah, I mean,
what other people are paying.
I think we do, and I think our sewer is too. I think my water's great. I really love the sewer bill. I mean, water too. I mean, we're paying every quarter, and of all the bills I get at home, those are ones I don't mind. Now, when I get the cable bill, that's a different story. But water and sewer, for what you get for those, they're a good deal. But we'll bring more information back to council on some of these fund balances and some of the ideas to finance things. Believe me, we want everybody's input on that and make a collective decision on what to do here. Try to make the right decisions. We only want to borrow what we need to borrow.
Exactly. Anybody else? Okay. So that brings us to the end of your portion, correct, John?
That's correct.
And now we are at number 6, the public portion. If anybody would like to get up and speak, now is the time. State your name and address for the record, please.
Just a question, are we gonna have the operating budget on the township website?
When it's ready.
When it's ready, council doesn't even have that.
We don't have it yet, Mr. Kluska. So when it's ready.
Will we have a hard copy for next week's meeting?
When it's ready?
Yes, it'll be ready we'll have it ready maybe by tomorrow.
Yeah. We're shooting for it. They're finalizing. I do my piece. We get it to council, and we'll start that on Tuesday next week.
We call it the Bob Pluska edition.
Exactly. We'll have one just with your name on it.
I'm sorry?
We'll have one with your name on it. Let you go on the computer.
These big old books that we used to have.
I remember.
Save the paper.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kluska. Anybody else like to get up and speak? Now is the time. Name and address for the record, please.
Chris Comel, 105 Woburn Drive in Landing.
Hello.
Speaking briefly on the fire department, I know that we've discussed in the past couple of years about a replacement truck for Company 2. Just want to let the council know that we still hope that that's something that we could lean towards in the near future. The truck we are looking to replace is 28 years old.
28.
Correct. And FTA recommends every 15 years they get moved to reserve apparatus status, and after 20 that they get removed from service.
So clarify, reserved apparatus status is?
This is like a backup unit.
Okay, so they're not the
Not
first
the
due.
first due out of the firehouse. So we have one that is first due. This is currently our reserve one that's out of service for about a year now. We would like to have that replaced in the near future. And we are looking at combining it with our rescue truck, which is also 25 years old. That's also getting up there in age. So trying to help the town out by consolidating some of our equipment and making it work better for the residents, the council, and for the fire department. So take that into consideration. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address.
Anybody have questions?
So
Go
this-
ahead, Brad.
You're talking about two different, a brand new fire truck and a rescue vehicle?
It would be combining our current rescue truck, which has no water on it. It's strictly for rescue, extrication, Route 80, it does a lot of highway calls. It's out the door pretty much every day. And an engine that's 28 years old, it's out of service, it currently failed its pump service. And we're looking at, right now, an estimated 70,000 plus in repairs to get it back on the road. The fire department is trying to hold off on those repairs if we could get a replacement for it, just to save that extra money being spent. And we do understand that there was some money donated from the new development to help offset that cost a little bit. Every year has been a drastic cost increase, as you guys know, from purchasing a ladder truck last year, that costs have not gone down. The current build time is up to, it was 36 months as of January 10th, it's now to 38 to 41 months. So they're not going down, it's actually getting extended. So next year, the build time could get increased again, which would delay the delivery of when it comes. And then John also does have an email from the manufacturer that it is cash on delivery, so they don't need the funding up front. This could be something that, you know, if we can commit to, we wouldn't have to pay for until it's delivered, which would be another 3 to 4 years from now.
So again, you're taking two of your vehicles and you're combining it into one.
Correct.
You're taking a rescue and an engine.
Yep, which currently we do have, they both go out quite often. The rescue.
Well, the rescue's on 80 all the time.
All the time. It does not have water, and according to state law, we do need to provide a hose line with water on every extrication and traffic call we go on, which we can do with the assistance of mutual aid, but we cannot provide ourselves due to limited manpower. So if we combine them into one unit, we can have our crew do an extrication and also provide the water at the same time.
You say mutually within Roxbury or?
Sometimes within, sometimes without. So,
Well, how many are in, it's usually somebody in Roxbury, right, when it comes to needing water?
correct, yep. As long as we have somebody available.
Anybody
Any
else have
questions?
questions down there? All right.
If anyone ever has questions, want to reach out, you feel free to email me or call me, but happy to work with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, anybody else in the public wish to speak? No? Okay, seeing none, we're now to number 7, introduction of proposed ordinances. There are none. Number 8, hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. None. Introduction and adoption of resolutions, none. Personnel changes, none. Communications, none. We're now at our second public portion, if you would like to get up and speak. Seeing nobody, close the second public portion. We do not have an executive session, so I will take a motion for adjournment. Okay, Tom, and second? All in favor?
Recording